Hi, I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. Well, the Audies were this week. I know a lot of people were at New York for the festivities there. And one of the people that was there and won 3 Audies was Simon Vance. And this week, he's our guest here on East-West Audio Body Shop to tell us all about what it's like to win those awards.
Congrats, Simon. What a good guy. Couldn't imagine that happening to a nicer dude. Well, I'm going to talk about the new version of Twista Wave. Just released on Friday. It's version 1.11. I know a lot of you guys love Twista Wave. I'll show you why. It's a kind of a pretty exciting update and how it can help your workflow.
And in my tip of the week, we're going to talk about front-end processing. And I think most of you know how I feel about that.
That's right. And I'll also have the latest tech updates and pics and clips. I've got an audio and picture sample from a new studio with Studio Suit.
Woo! All right. That's East-West Audio Body Shop. This Sunday night, live, 9 o'clock in the East.
And 6 o'clock in the West.
And, of course, in the chat room. We'll see you there.
He's the home voiceover studio engineer to the stars in Los Angeles, California. A Virginia Tech grad whose knowledge of the latest recording gear is second to none. He's a voice actor and the home studio master, hailing from Buffalo, New York. His home studio skills and knowledge of voiceover recording is unmatched. When Dan and George talk shop, people listen, and the talk continues tonight. Welcome to East-West Audio Body Shop. And now, live from his high-tech facility in Santa Monica and his penthouse studio in Buffalo, here are George Whittam and Dan Leonard.
Hey,
good evening. Hey, good evening. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West
Audio
Body Shop. Well, that's probably totally out of sync.
You never listen to me. You have to just do it. I follow you every time.
I know. I was doing that deliberately.
Sure you were.
I was. A little bit of levity. Well, anyway, on this show, funny?
Levity?
Why should we start now?
And we try.
Yeah. Anyway, how's everybody doing tonight? We've got a great show lined up for you, and got cool things to tell you. Things are bubbling in the background here at East-West Audio Body Shop. We're getting a new lift and a new tool. Yeah, new lift. So get the cars up a little higher. Okay, and we've got some great stuff for you tonight. And we're gonna, our guest is some guy, Simon Vance, just won. We're still arguing. Was it 3 Audies or 4 Audies? We're not exactly sure. We'll have to have him clarify it.
Yeah,
it has something to do with, well, they mentioned the narrators. They didn't. But anyway, but he picked up 3, and they're really cool. He'll be joining us in a little bit. You're going to talk about Twista Wave tonight.
Yeah, they did a little update. It's a couple cool things in there, especially for audiobook production. So check it out.
Right. We're going to talk about front-end processing in my tip of the week, and then Simon will join us. And if you have a question for Simon, in the second half of our interview with him, chime in there, and our wonderful chat room monitors will forward those questions to us, because we're busy paying attention to what's going on here, not so much what's going on in the chat room.
We try, but, we go back and forth. Dan really focuses on the interview. You're good at that, Dan.
That's my job.
Yeah. My head's on the swivel over here.
That's right. Guys wouldn't believe what it takes to put this show on the internet, not on the air. I mean,
at least what we do by ourselves. I mean, for 2 guys to pull off this production, usually have at least 3 to 4 people on the production side just making this part happen. So it's fun.
We are getting a lot of help, but the actual turning it on and making sure that it turns on at 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, depending what time zone you're in. Yeah, we get it started on time. How late are we tonight? It's only 7 after 9 already.
A few minutes.
Whatever. All right. Well, busy stuff here. I'm sure you're a busy guy, but we want to get as much information to you guys as actually is possible within the framework of our show. So why don't we get things rolling tonight? You want to talk about Twista Wave. Let's pick a little bit of time and roll along with that.
Well, one thing that's
twist our way into
one thing that's so cool about Twista Wave. I mean, you guys hear us talk about it all the time. Why it's so suitable for voiceover. It's just the most dialed in, I think, stripped down to the essentials recording software for the Mac that I think that there is. And let me just differentiate. There is a version for Mac. There's a version for iOS, iPad and iPhone, and iPod Touch. And there's a version for that's online, so it operates on any web browser, which is really amazing. But the version we're going to focus on tonight is the Mac version, the desktop version. And Thomas, the developer, is so cool. He's been on the show before. He's probably due for a visit in the next few months, I hope. But he is always shaping, sculpting, debugging, and improving this software. It's just so great. And the thing that's so amazing about him is, like, I'll be working with a client and we'll find a little something that we'd like to be in the software, or maybe something that doesn't quite work the way we'd expect it to. So recently we were trying to use the Isotope RX2 declicker and decrackler plugins right within the Twista Wave stack, right? Because I think most people using those plugins, or most people don't use those actually as plugins. They use them as a standalone application. And I was like, well, geez, they do have an audio units plugin. Let's run it right in the stack. Well, it didn't quite work the way I expected it to. And I think it's probably because RX2 requires a tremendous amount of processing power, and it has a big buffer. So what was happening, long story short, is it was cutting off a little bit of the audio at the beginning of the section after processing. So long story short, we tell Thomas, and he's like, oh, well, here's a link to download version 1.10.84 that I just finished to fix that one little problem for you guys. And here it is. And he's like, and by the way, version 1.11 will be out on Friday. And it will include these fixes and a couple other things. So that's how I discovered it. He was like, get version 1.11 on Friday. So I grabbed it, downloaded it, installed it. And, you know, by the way, when you do install new versions of software that allow you to keep the old version, I would try keeping an old version of it just in case anything unpredictable happens. I mean, you are backing up your system, right? But even if you aren't, or if you're not making copies of stuff, having 2 copies of Twista Wave isn't the end of the world. You can always delete the one that, the old one, or the one that's not working correctly. But anyway, that rarely ever happens where you have a problem. But I have both versions, so I was able to kind of compare side by side and see what had changed. But let me show you real quick. I won't belabor this for too long, but I just want to give you a really quick tour of the Twista Wave menus and the one thing that stood out the most to me about the new update. And so let me do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this screen, and then I'm going to try screen sharing the entire screen. So Dan, tell me if you can see it, because I can't see my screen because it's covered with Twista Wave right now.
I'm watching. My eyes are glued on our screen here.
Do you see the full screen?
Not yet.
Let me switch cameras, so to speak, so that we can see it. There we go. Ta-da.
Oh, there
now
we go.
You see it? Okay, great.
Now I do.
So this is the easiest way I could figure out to show you the new items in the menu. And I switched the show to HD tonight, 720p, so we could see a little bit more detail on the screen. And if this goes well, we'll just keep doing all the shows at 720p HD. So far, so good. Starting in the new stuff anyway that I've seen, I would say starting in the select menu, he's added a lot more ways to select audio. So like if you're a big keyboard shortcut person, you love being able to do like select to transient and do lots of ways of selecting audio, you know, using keyboard shortcuts. This is nice. He's added a couple new ones that I hadn't seen before. So that's one little thing. Many forget that auto extend to zero crossing is an option, and remember, it's always in the select menu. So if for some reason you're complaining about auto extend to zero crossing not letting you select exactly what it is you want to remove, let's say it's some sort of a click, you can always just uncheck it right here. There's also the ability to invert your selection. So if you selected everything that you want to keep, and then you want to delete everything you don't want to keep, you can always invert that selection and then hit delete. So that's kind of cool. The markers area doesn't look like it's changed a whole lot, but you can auto mark cuts now. So every time you make an edit, it will make a new marker at each edit point. which could be useful if you're trying to keep track of where all those edits are. So you could fix something later, or some of you I mean, I've been mastering and editing audiobooks a bit lately, and I thought it was actually kind of useful to see where all my edits were to go back later if I needed to. Then you can always clear all those markers. So if you have like 1,000 markers, you're like, ugh, just go here and click clear markers and they go away. Now here's where things I think get really cool. In the audio menu, you've now got a few new things. One of them is check input levels. Finally, you can look at your VU meters in Twista Wave without actually hitting record. You know, small miracles, but something I've been hoping he'd do for a long time. You can finally just check a box and start monitoring your input levels. So if it was me, I would just leave this thing checked, this box checked all the time. The rest of these menu items are the same, but then we get this other cool one, input device. Now he's got input and output device right in the audio menu. So you don't have to click 5 times, you only have to click 2 times. You just click audio and choose the device. So if you do have more than one device, or which is most common of all, which would be you have a laptop or an iMac or anything with a built-in mic, you can now immediately confirm you're using the right input from the audio menu. So that's cool, right, Dan? I mean, that's nice. That's really handy. So input and output right there.
Usually it's like going into preferences and
you have to go to
checking device and
preferences, click device, which is not the end of the world, but you know, it's just nice that he's made that even more convenient. Under the effects menu, I haven't seen anything new here. I don't think there's much to look at in this menu yet. But when I was doing some processing on something the other day, I just clicked on normalize like I always do. And this is where I had a real surprise, this new version of normalize. And let me recrop in on the screen selection to make it a lot easier to see. There. Now it should be like, you should be seeing just that normalize window.
There it is.
Okay.
Wow.
So he's totally revamped normalize. Normally, used to be basically nothing from this point down. All you had was a peak setting, and that was it.
Right.
But now he's trying to make it, I think, feel and be more competitive to SoundForge, because SoundForge has always been able to allow you to set more than just the peak value. You could also set the RMS value.
Explain what the RMS value is.
So, and I'm going to wrap this up quickly because this can go into a lot of detail. But peak value is what most of us are accustomed to. So if your peak level is -3 dB, so the loudest thing in that piece of audio, it peaks at -3. Then if you set normalize to -3, it will set the audio level that so that the peak is at that value.
In other words, it won't go anywhere.
It won't go. Yeah, if it was already at 3 and you normalize to -3, it won't go anywhere. If it peaked at -6, then you could. Let me show you an example. Let's say I open a file here, and is this not gonna be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Is it? I just tried to open one file and now I'm gonna beach ball. Are we still on the air?
Yeah, we're still on the air.
Okay, good. Oh, okay, good. No, it's just I'm just gonna beach ball and Twista Wave because I opened a file. But anyway, what I was going to show you is the way to check your RMS levels using the analyze function. But in the meantime, it's always great getting a beach ball. I feel like Steve, was it Bill Gates? They were getting a blue screen of death on it, doing their. I'll force quit. But anyway, the ability to set RMS. Basically, RMS is the average volume over the course of the recording. See, I'm going to recover from crash. And the average volume, there we go. The average volume is what allows you to select what's called the average RMS volume of the recording. Now, for most of us, we don't really care what that is, but ACX Audible, they have actually set a sort of standard that they like you to achieve, and that is -20 dB, or thereabouts. Maybe a little above, maybe a little below. Well, you had to do a lot of monkeying around before to get to that average, using compression and limiting and having to massage the limiter settings, and at least that's how I do it. Now you can just go and actually choose a RMS value and say, let's say that might be -20 because that's what you want on the book. But what takes us to another level of really cool, in my opinion, is you can limit how much it actually adjusts the levels. right? So it could get way out of hand, but you can say, no, I only move it by so much. I don't want it to go totally crazy. Or what I think is even more handy is it will also allow you to set the peak value of the normalize setting as well. So in one pass, you can normalize average level to -20 as well as the peak level to -3.
I don't think we're seeing anything here. Are you clicking through menus and stuff?
Shoot. Do you see it over here now?
No.
Tell me if you see it now.
Oh, okay. Now we see it.
Sorry, guys. I'll show you that again. So if you're set it to a RMS level of -20, you can check a box next to maximum peak value. You don't need true peak value. That's a little over the top geeky. Maximum peak value of -3. So it's going to normalize by average RMS to -20, as well as set the peak value at -3 dB. So it's doing two jobs at once.
So in other words, it won't just it won't take it to the loud if you've got a transient in there or something.
Well, it won't slam it right up to 0 dB, right?
Right.
So you don't have to go back and then renormalize it again. I mean, these are steps. I mean, I've been doing a lot of audiobook mastering lately, so the less steps you have to take to do these jobs better. And I like to teach my voice actors that want to learn how to audiobook master for ACX how to do some of it themselves, because a lot of you guys are doing these non-stipend books where you have zero budget and you want to be able to do it quickly with the low budget mentality. So this can help you get part of the way there. So anyway, I thought that was a really cool thing that he added that in.
Yeah.
I'd never seen a normalized tool quite like this that has this much ability to control it. So I've only just seen it. I don't know the reality of the way it's going to function in real life. So there's still some more work to be done to investigate that.
I'll have to play with that this week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
back.
I think it's going to be really cool. But anyway, new Twista Wave version 1.11. So if you're running Twista Wave and you have your auto updates turned off, go to the website or just say just tell it to check for updates, and you'll be able to grab that off the website.
Fabulous. See, we keep thinking nothing's new under the sun, but technology marches on.
Especially software. Yeah,
especially
software never stops changing, that's for sure, unless you're running Adobe Audition 1.5.
Yeah. I think one of the things we should talk about one of these nights is the future, what we think is going to happen. Could be interesting.
That would actually be kind of cool. We've been on the air now over 2 years, and it would have been kind of fun to do that 2 years ago and see where we're at now. So,
well, we keep predicting that everybody's going to be using just iPads. I think I'm down to about 4 months left in that prediction.
And I think we keep predicting that people are going to lose interest and stop watching us in 2 years.
That's true. All right. Well, before you lose interest in this show, I think it's time we take a break. Yes, Simon Vance will be coming up in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about his Audie wins and a little bit more about audiobooks. And got my tip of the week coming up and lots more. So stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
VO Studio Tech. Recording made simple.
Hi, I'm Peter McHugh.
This is Jim Tasker from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner in Los Angeles.
Hi, this is Scott Rummel here in Yorba Linda, California.
Hi, my name is Rick Wasserman.
Hi, this is Tom Kane.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marshall.
Hi, my name is Zurich.
Hi, I'm Mary McKittrick.
Randy Thomas chiming in.
Hi, this is Joe Szymanski.
Hey, this is Rick Robles.
Hi, my name is John Patrick Armstrong.
I was turned on to George by none other than Don LaFontaine, who always swore by his health.
George is absolutely awesome.
ISDN, Source Connect, Phone Patch, FTP, you name it, George has set it up.
It's really the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel free, safe, fearless, like anything is possible in here.
Unless you like to look for opportunities to waste time, call George.
And he did all of that, long distance over the phone and the internet.
I'm very happy with George, and I cherish him.
Thanks, George. You make it easy.
Et voilà, this is East-West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Merci. Et maintenant, back to the show.
Bonjour, bonjour.
I love Sylvia's voice.
That is a nice voice. I'm going to get to speak a little bit of French this summer.
Oh, fun.
I'm going to be in Marseille for a day.
Marseille for a day.
Marseille for a day.
Right.
Yeah. What was the Bogart movie? Oh, Passage to Marseille. Very dark. I'm hoping it's not dark when we when we throw the anchor in Marseille.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see. But taking a little trip this summer should be interesting. Seeing a little bit of the Mediterranean, which I've seen bits and pieces of. Now I get to see a little bit more. But anyway, I think it's time for something else right now, though. And it is...
Sit back and relax. It's time for some announcements.
All right. Lots of stuff to announce. Well, not a lot of stuff, but, stuff. Stuff is stuff.
Yeah.
First off, if you haven't yet, go take the survey. What
please.
Survey, you say? We have a survey online that's talking about the show. We want to hear what you guys think about our show and any suggestions you have. It's not a democracy, but we certainly do take petitions to us.
Absolutely.
For redress of grievances. So if you want to help us out, give us some ideas, things along those lines. But we do have a specific survey online. And where do they go get that, George?
EWABS.com.
That makes it simple.
Short and simple. Right on the front page. It's at the very top. It's prominently located. And if you didn't fill it out, if you filled it out once before, we thank you for even doing it at all. If you're up for doing it again, I added a couple more questions at the tail end, so it'd be nice to add those in. But anyway, it would really help. It's going to help shape the show. You can suggest guests. Just any way to move the show forward and improve things for you guys. That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And in that light, we're going to make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
Big changes.
Yeah.
I mean, tonight you can even see one of them. We're going to be in 720p.
Yeah, we're in widescreen HD, or at least 720p. So
wow, look at that! I can almost reach you.
Yeah, we can stretch out.
That's right. So picture quality is definitely going to be better.
Yeah.
And but we're going to make a couple of other changes, which we will announce later. Probably in July.
Mm-hmm.
But
we
things
need time to roll them out. Yeah.
We need to roll them out, figure them out how we're going to do them. But we've decided that we're going to make these changes, not take anything away.
Right.
We're going to add some stuff and make this show even better.
That's right.
That's that with that. Stay tuned.
Little teaser.
Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Memberships. You can still be a member of EWABS. We might make some changes to that too, though. But we want, if you want 24-hour access to us, wake us up in the middle of the night. Say, I got an audio problem.
By email.
By email. Oops. I didn't check my email at 2 in the morning. I know Dave Pavassier does, but
yeah.
Let's see here. Also, thank our donors. You can still donate to the show because it's still not cheap. Mm-hmm. It costs us to be on here every month, or it costs us per month to be on here, and we go over our allotted hours. After the first week.
Yeah, we do.
We're allowed like 100 viewer hours, and
it's overages, kind of like with your cell phone company.
Yeah.
So we start racking up overages.
It starts to add up. So if you'd like to help us out with that, the guitar case is out in front of us here. All you have to do is click that donate button right above George's head there if you're in the EWABS.net site and donate to us. It's easy through PayPal, and it's a big help. It doesn't matter the amount.
That's right.
Just help us out. We appreciate it. What else we got
here? Thanks, Harlan, and Harlan Hogan at voiceoveressentials.com.
He signed up for us for another stint with us.
He did.
He is so happy with what we're doing for him.
He's
so go buy his stuff. That's right.
Yeah, and please, when you do buy something from him, just drop him a note. Say, I heard about you on EWABS.
EWABS.
That would really help him out and us, so he'd know that where people are coming from.
That's right.
Thanks to John at VoiceOver Extra, too.
That's right. And Studio Suit. It's still there. You guys want it? I got it. I got to cut up a little bit more, though. I bought an industrial strength scissors this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was getting kind of blisters on my finger from cutting this stuff.
Is it two-stroke? Does it have a pull start on it?
No.
Oh.
It's still manual, but it's like,
okay.
I was like using a crappy pair of Fiskars, that my, a kid might use in kindergarten to cut, canvas in the insulation stuff.
And you get some nasty blisters doing
that.
Oh,
it was bad. So I went to a fabric store and I'm like, no, this isn't the right one. I ended up going over to Home Depot and found like industrial strength shears.
Awesome. Well, I'll share a little bit later. I've got pics and clips.
Oh, fabulous.
From an install I did last week with Studio Suit, and proof was in the pudding, man. It works.
All right.
Like us on Facebook, on our Facebook page. We'd really appreciate it. That's East West Audio Body Shop is the name of the page. All 5 words. You can follow us on Twitter at EWABS_show. And most important probably is subscribing to our show on YouTube. So then you'll never miss an episode ever.
Never. Never.
And if you're kind of catching up, you can go to ewabs.com, click on the YouTube link at the top, and there's a YouTube video player playlist in there with every episode in one humongous playlist. So you can scroll through, and there's a list of all the shows on a film strip and pick the ones that you want to watch.
Right. I mean, with the technology has advanced a great deal since we started this show. We were talking about dial telephones originally, and actually saw a bunch of those at a flea market today. I just had to mention that.
Oh, and don't forget the swag. Thanks, guys,
yes.
Our loyal fans in the chat rooms. Like, don't forget the swag.
Don't forget the swag.
Yeah, you can go to ewabs.com, and there's a shop link at the top of the page, and you can get mugs. Mine's starting to get a little worn. It's getting a little worse for the wear. I think it's time to. I need to get a new one of these myself, but you can get these great travel mugs.
Mine's in the dishwasher.
Dance in the dishwasher. Mugs and mouse pads and keyboard bags and T-shirts and all sorts of fun stuff. Wave your flag proud that you're an EWABS fan.
Absolutely. All righty.
Around your house.
Yeah,
because you guys never go anywhere.
Yes, we're gonna have EWABS curtains and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's a way to really impress people.
Right.
Okay, well, it's time for my tip of the week, and this is like one of my something that people talk to me about all the time. Oh, I got one of these. I got one of those. Let's talk about it. Tip of the week time.
Just sit back and relax.
Front end or back end? What do I mean? I'm talking about audio chains and processing. Your voice goes from here to your mouth to there, through a cable and to your preamp and your digital interface. It gets turned into ones and zeros, goes down your USB or FireWire cable, and into your computer. So when I say front end, I mean everything in between your mic and your digital interface. I'm finding many of you using preamps, but preamps with lots of other stuff. Preamps with compressors and EQ, and some even with noise gates. For voiceover, I find these devices unnecessary, especially if you don't understand what these things do. The reasons for them sound reasonable enough. You want to clean up the sound as you record so you don't have to spend time editing it. And on those 30-second spots, that adds up to what, like a couple of minutes? For sure, on long-format stuff, a front-end noise gate can save you time. But personally, I always say it's better to get your background noise down to a manageable level, physically, before you ever hit record. The other reason is just plain silly. Unless you're a full-time producer creating spots and mastering and mixing the final product, there's very little reason to process your voice. I think people get carried away and try to make their recordings sound like they do on the radio. Even worse, like on your radio in 1956.
Deep and loud.
It's not how you record that makes it sound the way it does on radio, or TV for that matter. Broadcast stations take audio and shove it through an audio chain that compresses it and equalizes it and makes it louder so it's very present on your radio. When you do it, especially if you don't know how, you're creating something loud but less dynamic. The subtleties of your voice get washed out. But chances are, if you're processing your audio that way, it's not even getting to the station because they probably hired someone else. I'm not a big fan of specialized outboard channel strips. They make you louder, but they do it the same way every time, unless you adjust them for different types of reads. But here's the number one reason I prefer doing any processing in my software, in post. When you record with processing on the front end, it's there forever. You don't do it right, it's wrong forever. If you record dry, no gates, compression, and EQ, you have total control of the output. You play with it until it sounds right, and even then with minute, subtle adjustments. And then you save it. But always save the original dry file. And that's my tip for the week.
fascinating. You throw in a picture of an Optimod and everybody goes crazy. What is an Optimod? Well, a couple of people know what an Optimod is.
The radio geeks in the audience.
Yeah, you were saying, people actually have tried Optimods as front-end process. Those things are like 10 grand used on eBay.
Yeah.
With digital broadcasting, they're probably fairly obsolete by now. I'm sure Orban has come up with something even more advanced than that.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah. It was fun with the Optimod when you were on radio. You'd look at it and go... it was something that just made the FM signal louder so you could throw the signal farther.
Right. It makes every single possible frequency band as loud as possible.
Yes. See, now how do I know these things? Because I still have one of these guys.
Oh, check it out.
Anyone recognize what that thing is?
Hold it real still. Let me write down the license number. Hang on.
Okay.
No. It was pretty sharp there for a minute.
Yeah, no, I found that lying around, but I still have it. Back in the days when you had to have one of those to be on the radio.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yeah, sure, come on in.
Just
pay
don't
you $10 an hour.
Don't say the wrong thing, or we'll
That's
slap
right.
you with a $70,000 fine.
That's right. Exactly. That's not like that anymore.
Right.
Anyway, but front end stuff, forget about it. We're finding it just goes straight into your digital interface and do everything in post with all those marvelous things you have in Twisted Wave now. Anyway, but that's going to do that for that. If you're having trouble, picking up the show tonight, if you're having some buffer issues or something like that, when in doubt,
reboot. As they say in Canada.
Yes. Well, we're going to take a break right now. I know it's my commercial. You can miss it. You know what I do. But try rebooting, and hopefully that will clear up the problem. And we'll be right back here with Simon Vance here in East West Audio Body Shop. So stay tuned.
Now back to EWABS. Thank Dan and George's wives. For what? You have no idea. Now, here's Dan and George.
All righty, we are back here on East West Audio Body Shop on a Sunday night, and it's nice here in the East. Nice and warm out west, I'm sure. But it's time that we head even farther north from you, George.
That's right.
And let's welcome our guest, an Audie winner. Again, having a tremendous career that's only going to get better. Simon Vance, welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. Welcome back, as a matter of fact.
Hi there. I'm so glad you call it an Audi. I just wish they did give me the car. We call it Audis.
I was going to ask, is it Audi or Audi?
Did I get 3 Audis? I wish.
Yes. No, you just got the 4 rings, but not the actual car.
Sponsored by Audi.
Audi sponsored. You think some smart marketer would have jumped in on that one?
Yeah.
That'll be good. Maybe they keep trying.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on.
Wasn't there an old Foster Brooks joke? And a guy says, I was at a golf tournament and someone says, hey, would you like a caddy? He goes, I thought I won a car. But anyway.
So when did you get back from New York?
Actually landed yesterday,
okay.
just after lunch. Great flight over, and then it took me about as long to come home on the BART system because of the delays on Saturday. So it drove me crazy. And then some woman knocked on the door asking to see my cable box and didn't seem to have a reason. I kind of lost it with her, so I apologize. But she was like, "What? Show me ID. This isn't DirecTV. This is No, I work for all.
Oh my gosh!
I was tired, and she didn't have a good reason to come into my house, so I told her to go
away with you. Away.
So you've had time to calm down. You got over that. Now you've had Sunday to relax.
If you told me it was 7:20, I would have shaved.
Oh well. So, but you had quite a successful run there in New York this week. You won. Now let's get this straight. Did you win 3 Audies? Or Audies, or whatever they're going to be called, or did you win 4?
Well, here's the thing. It was a question of what do I claim? Because my name was attached to 4 Audie winners. And I think it's clear. I think what I'm going to claim is 3, because the first 2, these are purely me, pretty much, other than the book publisher asked me to do them. They got the rights. This is The Tao of Pooh. This is Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. Totally down to me in my studio in the house. I'm very grateful to the publishers for asking me to do those books. The other 2 were one for the book Dracula, which is a multi-voice. Now, there's the first thing. It's a multi-voice, so it's not just me. But I was a crucial part of the multi-voice. I did win one a few years ago for Dune, which I did Scott Brick, and others contributed to that. But I was the main narrator, so I own that one. This was for Dracula. Now, the first one was for the multi-voice. So as one of the multi-voices, I think I can claim that. So I got 3. The 4th one was for Best Achievement in Production. So now I just contributed my voice to it. I didn't do the production. I didn't do the post on it. So I can't really claim it, but my name was attached to it. In the euphoria of the evening, of course, I ran around going, 4, 4, 4.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you can claim it, okay?
Oh, please
Think
don't.
about the effort and time and cost you have spent to get the audio quality that you send out when you do these books.
That's true.
And that absolutely contributes to the production values of that. I mean, if
Thank
your
you,
audio wasn't what it is, obviously your performance is great, but if your audio wasn't what it was, your quality of your acoustics, your noise floor, your mic placement, your technique, your consistency, all that stuff wasn't so stellar, that the award wouldn't have gone to that. So you absolutely deserve that.
Well, I'll take 3.5. How about that? It's compromise.
That works. That works.
I'll go get one of these and crack it in half. So.
Nice paperweights, though.
They're good, actually. Yeah. I need to get a new shelf, though. It's getting a bit heavy over in the corner.
Oh yes, I have that problem too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the awards. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have won bowling trophies or a girls soccer team or something like that. Maybe you've won an award here or there. But what's it really like to be at a gala like that and be thinking, am I going to win? Am I going to win? I'm being fairly confident you are going to win because you are as good as you are. But what's it like to go up there and actually receive an award? What goes through your mind as they announce your name?
I mean, I don't know how to describe it. So, I mean, it's nervous. We go in, and if you've been nominated on the receiving desk, you get one of these. Ooh. I happen to have a few more than one this year. Actually, I put down on the... Hang on a second. These are some from past years.
Oh, he beats Uncle Roy.
I just had to show those off. But you get one of those, and you walk around with this around your neck, a bit like a cowbell if you've got more than one. And then we sit in the auditorium. What used to happen was we'd all sit around dinner tables, and they'd start the awards ceremony, and they'd read out the names, and whoever won, whatever the category was, and there were 20 or so more categories, the winner would get up and be able to say, thank their mother and their grandmother and whatever for contributing to their lives and so on. And it was kind of fun. And then they decided to sharpen things up a bit, so they stopped the everybody getting up. So for these 2 that I won here, all I did was stand up and receive the adulation of the crowd, which is no small thing. It's really nice to be celebrated by your peers. So that's fun. I mean, it's a great relief when you do win one. I mean, it's like, wow, finally, I can sit down and relax for the rest of this. I had about 9 nominations, so there wasn't a lot of relaxing going on. It was sort of sitting there waiting for the next one. But you do get up to make a speech if you win the best solo narration and the best best male solo and the best female, and also the 2 big winners, which is the best audiobook of the year and the best audio production. So I did last year when I won for King's Speech. I was able to get up and make a speech, but I hadn't expected to be. I'd forgotten that was a speech one, so I didn't really get too nervous about that because I didn't have a chance except when I was up there.
Did you stutter in that speech at all?
Did I stutter? Yes, all through the book. I mean, that's what, yeah, right. No, that was. God, I was fortunate when I was asked to do the book. It was knowing the film. I thought, oh God, how am I going to do that? Because Colin Firth is so good, and does he really go all the way through the film, all the way through the book? And it turns out the book is written as a sort of a historical document, rather more factually than the film. So I didn't ever have to stutter. So thankfully,
interesting.
Yeah.
So you win those. So what do you do afterwards? Is there like a big party afterwards, or?
Yeah, well, it's changed a little bit. Again, that's a little changed because we didn't have a big official after-show party. The last couple of years there was. Playaway sponsored it because these things are expensive. Playaway make those little, sort of you can buy them at airports, I think, preloaded audiobook things.
Oh, yeah.
So those were fun because it was, I think it was an open bar at least part of the evening, and the place got very crowded. One year, couple of years ago, I can remember leaving it at 5. No, we went from there to some kind of a disco or something weird. It had lights on the floor. By that time, I don't think I was in a state to really care. Had some more champagne. We left at 5 a.m. and I went and sat in a diner in my sort of James Bond gear, the bow tie undone, looking very casual, eating fried egg and chips. Right. At 5 in the morning. But this year there wasn't a sponsored party. I think they extended the period it was at the New York Historical Society up on 79th and 160th Central Park West, I think, or something like that. Yeah. But they had a bit more champagne, a few little canapé things, dessert-like things, about this big, I think. No, they're trying to save money in all kinds of ways. But they and a little more networking. It's just fun, seeing a lot of people. Like Dave Courvoisier was there. I think John Florian, you mentioned voiceover extra. He was around.
Yeah,
yep.
And a lot more voiceover people coming in, and it's really good to see because we had the conference a couple of days before. But you might want to get into that in a moment. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's where we were going next.
Yeah. Oh, good.
It was all part. It's the
good segue.
Yes, nice.
Since you mention it,
yes, of course it was the finale, the gala finale to the AIPAC conference, and you were there for the conference, and give us your impressions of it and tell us a little bit about what went on there.
AIPAC 2013.
Yes.
What's wonderful? What's been happening? This week was great because it's the Audio Publishers Association. And years ago, narrators barely got a look in. Not because the publishers necessarily, cut us out completely, but they didn't. It was focused on the publishers. So you had a running order of the day, conferences, meetings, and so on that basically dealt with publishers' things. We've slowly encroached on their territory, and they've been very generous to allow us to do that. And we now have the publisher track and the narrator track. And here's the running order. This is the publisher track. The narrator track goes much longer. We actually started an hour earlier in the day. There's an awful lot more there for narrators than there ever used to be. This year particularly, I think, was successful. We had things for new narrators. They had directed diagnostics at the beginning of the day, which I contributed to, where if you're a new narrator and you signed up early enough, because there's only a limited number of slots, you got to spend 20 minutes with an experienced audiobook pro. So I got two young suckers, newbies, to sit with me for about 20 minutes at 9 o'clock and 9:25, and I got to listen to them. They read something to me, and we talked a little bit about what direction they might go in, what if I picked up on any errors. But so that was useful. And then later in the day, for the more experienced narrator, there was what was called speed dating, Publisher Pro Speed Dating. And they basically had a list of 20 or 30 publishers who all sent a representative. They sat in this big room, like speed dating. And if you were a narrator who had won an award, even an earphone award or any of the other, there are a multitude of awards out there, not just Audies, which are the top of the chain, but the earphones, you got the chance to sit in on this and sit. Because quite possibly you'd only worked for maybe 2 publishers. How do you get in the door with all the others? Here's a chance, 5 minutes with each of these. And they actually had a bell. They rang a warning bell, and they rang a bell on the 5 minutes, and everybody got up and moved around, fell over each other, fell over their bags, forgot their bags. It was a little chaotic at times. There was one publisher I particularly wanted to see because I'd known a lot of the others, and I was able to sit with them, and it was lovely because it was a very natural, not not here, employ me, here's my demo, here's the sort of, it's what's going on here, I exist, this is what I've done, this is how I think I can, contribute to your company. So, and I think everybody enjoyed that. So that was great.
Yeah. What is really the main focus of AIPAC though? I mean, it's the Audio Publishers Association? Is it for networking? Is it so the publishers can talk to each other? Well, we're not going to tell you our secrets.
I think there's a lot of business that gets done in AIPAC, and they have a lot of reviews of the year past, what's been going on in the industry. They have the industry things. I'm going to see if there's anything here. There's the annual membership meeting, but it's mostly networking. I mean, there's some sort of paperwork that has to be done, and what's been going on, a little sort of review of the year past. But a lot of it is just networking and seeing who's out there. Particularly, the publishers do that, but as I say, for the network, for the narrators, it's really a useful thing. In that respect.
Did they do some stuff on marketing and how people should market themselves?
Well, on the narrators track, they had marketing successfully with manners. I didn't sit in. I was doing something else at the same time. Let's see. And what does it say about this? On the panel were Tavia Gilbert, Dave Courvoisier, Megan Fitzpatrick, Sarah Twombly, and Meg Walker from various libraries. It was all about PR skills. What is successful promotion of oneself and one's work in person and online? How can audiobook performers graciously and powerfully connect with listening fans, authors, reviewers, news media, casting directors in a way that will increase sales, attract audiences, engage decision makers, and help build a sustainable career? All useful stuff.
Yeah.
And so many. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I'm one of the useful ones. Again, I didn't make it to this one because I was busy doing other things, but vocal health and sustainability. If audiobook narration is a marathon, what can you do to make sure you're taking care of your body and your voice throughout the long, demanding hours of work? They did this the last year, and I think the year before they had something like this every year. So if if you're a new narrator, or if you're somebody who does short form and you're thinking about long form, obviously it's going to concern you. Keeping your voice in tip-top shape. So a lot of good, basic stuff, but goes into it in good detail.
Yeah. And, go ahead. Well, the audiobook business is this whole wide new genre that, I mean, it's been around for a while, but with the new business of voiceover, a lot of people are breaking in from opposite directions here. You have people who are coming into the audiobook business because they want to be audiobook narrators, and they were accountants before, and had no experience whatsoever in what's going on. And then you have a lot of people who were in voiceover and said, hey, let me try this audiobook thing. It's an interesting crossroads, isn't it?
Yeah, it was interesting. The panel that I was on in the morning with Pat Fraley, he was the chair of the panel, and but we did translating VO to narration, basic audiobook acting, which was talking to people who had done exactly that, come over from short form narration and so on. But and Scott Brick and Hilary Huber were also on that panel, previous guests of East West Audio Body Shop. There's a lot of people coming in from all kinds of different directions, and what's happened in the last year, we had that huge onrush of books at the end of last year. Audible are owned by Amazon, so they got a direct connection, a great resource to get the rights to an awful lot of books out there. And they did that. They unloaded an amazing number of books, and books that probably didn't deserve to be put onto audio, if I'm honest about it. But with that massive load of books, it needed an awful lot of people to record them, and there's only so many Scott Bricks and Hilary Hubers and me's around. We can only do so much. So it was drawing in a lot more people who, I hate to say, but the standard's dropping, in terms of auditions. 5 years ago, they'd never got in. They got in, which is a great opportunity if you got talent, but it also draws in a lot of people who, really shouldn't quit their day job. So if they, and now what's happened is that sort of, they pulled back a little bit. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the internal politics or whatever, if it is politics, but I think they decided it wasn't such a great idea. And right now, people are inquiring, okay, can I keep working? Maybe I shouldn't have quit my day job. And especially as I think one of the things that happened is they got a lot more feedback from book bloggers and listeners that the standards were falling because they were having to let people in. They were rushing a lot of stuff. I got calls to do, a 21 book series in about 6 weeks. I mean, I couldn't do, I didn't do it, but it was like, I thought it was somebody whistling in my ear then. That was a dog, wasn't it?
No, it's a friendly neighborhood dog on my back.
Yeah. Was it my dog?
Somebody was telling me, shh, 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 shh. Anyway, so it's an interesting place right now. I think there's a lot. What's been really good this year, there's a lot more community within the audiobook narrators community. We've connected through for several reasons. One being some sort of union activity and so on that's been going on, which has united a lot of people. And there's a lot more understanding of the wider world of narrators out there. Whereas before, and I know, 20 years ago I started, and it was 10 years before I became aware there was anybody else out there narrating. The last 10 years has been a sort of a gradual growth of interconnectivity. And the last year has just been tremendous, where we've got the Facebook groups, there's Twitter, of course. We're all getting out there with social media. We're all interacting with each other and with book bloggers, and it's created a great sense of community. And it was wonderful to see so many people on the periphery of narration coming to AIPAC and joining in with what was going on. And the social events were just wonderful. I didn't just sit in the corner talking to one or two people. It was a chance to meet dozens of new people.
Yeah, talked to a lot of people who met you, and they were all like, I got to meet Simon Vance. Had a lot of friends. We had quite a crew that went to AIPAC this year. So the state of the industry is you think it's in flux, that finally, as you say, the publishers have finally figured out, maybe, having everything, since Gutenberg on audiobook is not a really good idea. And to be more selective.
Maybe
and
it's finding its center, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, we've been thinking it's going to happen. I mean, it's like everybody's trying to get into it, and we were hearing that the quality standards were falling. And I'm glad apparently you think they've caught on.
I hope so. I mean, I don't know what goes on. There is a divide between us and the publishers. We don't know what goes on in their boardrooms and so on, but I think there's a recognition that it might not have been a great idea. There does need to be more focus on standards. I came on Friday afternoon, I got to visit a writer who we connected through Twitter, and she's New York Times winning writer. We sat in the back of a car in the New York traffic and chatted, and she was a fan of the Aubrey Maturin series that I did, but she was very critical of how many mistakes she hears in a lot of audiobooks these days. Simple things, pronunciation things. She was born and brought up in Montana, and she was hearing all these names from that state mispronounced. And these are very simple things that narrators need to be able to do. And a lot of new narrators, I think, coming into the business can overlook that side of the business. They think, okay, so many hours to record, so many hours to do this, but you've got to make sure you got the research done. And if you're lucky, you've got a publisher who will work with you, and so on and so forth. But a lot of stuff slips through. And I have to be honest, she also commented on the fact a couple of my books from very early days with one of the publishers actually still had a retake left in that I'd missed, and then the proofer had missed. So these things that, they happen to the best of us, of course.
Yeah.
But
sheer volume of stuff, things are going to happen.
Yeah. So can I shift the conversation slightly technical before we take a break?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've been working on some of the difficulties with, chasing demons out of your home studio. And one of those was a hum, right? What was the result? I mean, what did you do? I mean, I helped you a little bit, but a lot of it you did on your own. What kind of troubleshooting did you go through?
Well, it was one of those situations where, you have to break it down. You keep plugging things in, plugging things out, taking things out of the chain, putting things back in. I thought it was the voltage regulator, or, the strip thing that
Furman or whatever it was.
Yeah, I didn't have the Furman. I had a Monster one, that's right. And I plugged my stuff in, and I'd been aware of a very low-level hum inside. I've got a double-walled studio, and then in the same room, I've got my the voltage regulator and stuff there, the preamp or whatever, and then it comes through the wall to the actual computer, which is in the office where I'm now. So there's no noise from the computer itself. So I was sitting there. I was aware of the very low level, so it didn't really affect things, but it bothered me that it was there, because I kind of would like perfection. Yeah. And I tracked it down to, I thought, the Monster voltage thing. And ultimately, and I actually did replace that with a Furman, because you'd mentioned that as being a particularly good one. So I spent money on that. My Monster, I've now changed that. I was going to send my Monster back. I complained to them, and they said, tell us all about it. And then I realized what the real answer was. It turns out it was my Mac Pro, my 2008 Mac Pro. There's something in it because what was happening was, what I found was, if get this right round the right way, but if it was plugged in but not switched on, it hummed really loudly. The voltage regulator hummed.
Yeah.
And this is, the computer's in here, the voltage regulator's in there.
Yeah.
And it hummed. But if I switched the computer on, it stopped humming. So you figured it was something that, when I mentioned that to you, you said, I think it's the power unit in the Mac Pro. You said, sell it quick. So if anybody out there wants a 14 Pro, I've got it. It's because it's so good. I mean, I do like it, but it's obviously there's some issue in that power unit with the Mac Pro.
It's been reliable otherwise.
Plugging, unplugging. Crazy.
Man.
But you solved it.
Yeah, it can be really hard to suss. I mean, so wait, you said that the hum is still there, or it's gone now?
No, well, actually, what I got right is that the hum is actually not there in the recording, wasn't in there in the recording when I was in there recording. It was when I was outside it, I could hear this hum. And I thought the studio was getting rid of it, but it was only when the computer was switched off, but the voltage regulator and other stuff was switched on.
Okay.
Which is why I thought it was that.
Gotcha. See? No, you can. You always. I mean, when it comes to sussing out noise, start with the cheapest stuff first, and work your way up.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many times that you find out that it's only in your playback and it's not on the actual recording.
Yeah, I know. And that's hard to test, right? Because if it's in the playback, how do you know it's not?
Send it to somebody else
just to double check. Yeah, or play it back on another. If you have a laptop or even an iPad, play it back on that with headphones, just so you can find out.
Yeah. Well, if anybody has any questions for Simon, jot them down in the chat room. Someone will, operators are standing by to take your questions, and we'll pose them to Simon in just a minute. But right now, we need to talk about one of our great sponsors, somebody who has everything you need, every possible thing that you could possibly need for voiceover. He has and has access to. But then again, he believes that you don't have to have everything. He's like us.
Yeah.
You only need a few things. You need a microphone. Yeah, I mean, you need a computer. He doesn't sell the computers, but, we know what kind he uses.
Yeah.
But he's got the microphones. He's got, he's got the Portabooth Pro and Portabooth Plus. He's got that thing, the ABS, that'll hold your boom mic stand in place. It's amazing the stuff this guy comes up with.
Do you suffer from saggy boom syndrome? Then the new ABS adjustable boom stop will help you with that. No, actually,
surprised he hasn't called it a boom jock or something like that. That would have really been different. But go over to voiceoveressentials.com where Harlan Hogan has all the great stuff for voiceover. You can't really say that about a lot of other, retail sites because they're like, well, we sell it for musicians and stuff.
Yeah.
Harlan stuff for voiceover only. Whether you're doing audiobooks, commercials, you're doing people's answering machines. I'm telling you, he's got it.
Prank phone calls, you name it.
He probably does have some. Well, and if anybody's good at prank phone calls, it's Harlan Hogan. If you've ever been on the phone with him, you know what that's about.
Exactly.
But if you need it, they've got it over at Voiceover Essentials, voiceoveressentials.com. Go over there, buy all his stuff because he makes this show happen.
I think one of the most useful things, I'm just scrolling through his website because we always try to pick out one product. I think this time,
good idea.
RLX Leonard. Wait, Leonard, the best name, right?
The bass traps.
RLX LENRD bass traps, which stands for low end node reduction device. Those are really helpful in tiny rooms or whisper rooms where you've already lined the whole thing with foam or whatever, and you're still getting a little bit of a low end ring. Stick those things in the corners. 1 pack of 4 usually works in a real small room, and he's selling them the 4-pack for $155, which is a pretty good deal, and they're really easy to install. So
you saliva on them; they just
right on in a whisper room. They pretty much stick themselves. They just shove them in the corner and they stay there. So check those out. Anyway, thanks, Harlan.
Yeah,
thanks for being there, buddy.
VoiceOverEssentials.com. Well, we didn't mean to interrupt that, Simon. We just had to, we gotta pay the bills here.
That's right.
You bet.
All right. Well, let's see what kind of questions we have here from our lively audience. Here's one. I don't know who this is from, but when you get a book and you do a contract for a book, when they send you the copy, how are they prepared for you? Are they like they know you're going to do it. Is there anything special that they do for it for Simon Vance to read it? Or do you have any special requests, or you're like, oh, here's the book and start reading it?
No, I mean, the only time, there have been very rare occasions when the script hasn't been easy to read. One publisher sent me the very, very tiny print. I can't possibly read that. One thing, everything comes to me as a PDF file. So I just can put it straight on my iPad. So it comes like the sort of the little line markings in it, like a pre-published copy. And I will usually in Acrobat, I'll usually crop it so that it fits my iPad screen. That's all. I mean, it can be in different styles, whatever. I mean, the words are the words. They're not going to change the words for me. So it's really just how it's presented. And I prefer a fully functional PDF, the kind that I find now really useful, where you put your finger on the word and it highlights the word and you can look it up in a dictionary right there. On the iPad. So that's, as long as that, because sometimes there'll be those PDFs that you can't do that. You can't search words in them and stuff like that. Those, I hate that. Generally speaking, most publishers will just send me a regular, fully operational PDF file. So nothing special is done for it. And if I need to change the form, the size of the picture, that's for me to do.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. This from Anthony. This is from Kimberly Jeter. Which audiobook gave you the most trouble? All of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that give you the most trouble aren't always the ones you hate. You might think that might be the case. The one I just did a week or so ago gave me a lot of trouble. It's about China in the Second World War, and I had 14 pages of pronunciations. Ooh. And it's, I don't like to mark up my script and go through it, partly because I'm lazy, but also that it takes a heck of a long time. And I can generally, if I'm coming to a bit, that's got full of names, I'll look over and I'll just practice the names a couple of times and then start recording and run through it. But when you got 14 pages of that and you have to keep stopping and double checking, and that can give me a lot of trouble. In terms of actual reading, where I didn't like it, I won't name the author, but there was a guy who had a connection with Dungeons and Dragons, and he writes a lot of books and has made a lot of money from these books, and I hated them. They were just like, really, it was like wading through treacle reading these books, and they were built like Dungeons and Dragons almost. 4 characters, a minotaur, an ogre, an elf, and a whatever walk into a clearing, and they're attacked by a magician from the right and something from the left, and then they go into another clearing and they're attacked again. And it's just those kind of things. You go on and on and on. Most books, and I'm fortunate that I get to be sent a lot of the best books, are just like singing. It flows so beautifully, and I'm just lucky that way. But apart from that, that book I mentioned, that series, I said to the publisher at the time, I don't want to do any more of those. No fun. What's happening, though, I mentioned a couple of times with friends over this last week that we've noticed, the longer we've been in the industry, that 10 years ago, almost all the books were pretty good books, and maybe 1 or 2 were not very good every so often, but there's a lot more average books around now. That was the days when we had a lot more classics to do, a lot more quality stuff, and only the creme de la creme got turned into an audiobook. Now, as we've said about the Audible thing last year, and that's not to be unfair on Audible, a lot of other publishers send out not such good stuff, but so much more stuff is being done that it's not always primo quality. So the effort involved in reading has gone up in a sense. There's some books are harder to read than others. I think that's the best I can say.
Well, I think you said that quite elegantly, as a matter of fact.
Frank Baum says, what's your favorite style of reading? Is it a third person, or what do you prefer?
Oh, I mean, if the writing's good, I can read anything. This one here, let me show you this award I happened to have got last week again. Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. That's third person, but you're very much in the head of Thomas Cromwell, and that was beautiful. I love that. I must say, I do like first person. I did one recently. What was it called? I had a copy hanging here. I can't remember, but it was about a guy who'd lost his wife. His wife was murdered, and he was reflecting on this, and the story was how he went back and found all her friends and reflected on different incidents and found out a new truth about her that he didn't know. I think every contact leaves a trace. That was the book. And it was just very meditative, and I love that, sort of reflective. I do like that. And that was very much first person. But really, as I say, if it's well written, I love it, whether it's non-fiction or fiction or murder mystery or whatever, like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and stuff. I enjoyed that. The story flows. If I'm drawn into the story to the point where all I know is this, I'm not aware of anything else, then I'm loving it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. See, we both have dogs barking on our ends, George.
I know. I had my mic off. Why am I still hearing a dog?
Because you're hearing Tinky.
Yeah, they're on both ends. I'm telling you, when the dog barks over here, it makes your dog bark.
Dog bark.
I've got cats. Do you want to hear cats?
Let's add that in.
Yeah. Let's make that loud. Then it'll be like, if one dog starts barking in the neighborhood and you hear it sort of going across the neighborhood.
There's actually a few technical related questions, which doesn't surprise me because we are a technical audience. Anthony Geddick said, "What iPad app do you use to read from?"
I use Goodreader, but that's not because I think it's any better, any worse than others. I know a lot of people swear by iAnnotate, but Goodreader is the one I started with. I think in the same way that for recording I use Steinberg's Wavelab because that's what I started with.
Right.
I got used to it, and it's hard to, once you've learned a workflow pattern, it's hard to change that. So Goodreader is the one I use.
Okay. Another techie type kind of question. We want to know a little bit more about what you're using in the studio. We talked about your mic, but what mic and audio? What's your signal chain from mic to computer? What are you doing in there?
I go from.
Land asked that.
God, I never get this right. I mean, I plug it in one day, and 6 months later, I have no idea what it goes through. I just know that it works.
Just works.
Set it and forget it.
That's a good sign, actually. If your gear is so reliable, or your studio is so reliable that you can actually forget what you're using, that's a good sign.
Yeah. So over the years, I've upgraded, and of course, I'm at a level where I'd like to have the top level stuff if I can. And recently, you know this, George, because I went past everything through you. I tested a whole bunch of microphones. I got hold of one of those. Oh God, I've forgotten the name of the guy, but some LA guy who makes a special kind of mic. I tried that.
Oh, the TM1, the
yeah,
Perlman,
that's right, TM1.
The Dave Perlman tube
mic.
Yeah,
that's it. I tried the tube mic, and I tried them all. And gee, guess what? I ended up keeping the Neumann U87. Whew, so that was expensive.
Let's see what happens.
So I use that. So that's just the beginning. It goes into the mixer again. I upgraded to the Mackie Firewire. It's sort of I had a Mackie mixer, but I went to the Firewire. It's the different one anyway. It's the more expensive one.
Is it a mixer with Firewire?
Yeah.
So like the Onyx 820i or something like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to that. I also I have the Grace M103 actually.
Oh, the channel strip. Yeah.
Should have just got the 101, I think. But I got the channel strip. Yeah. So I got the 103 and I got the Onyx, and then I got my Mac Pro here. I'm going to be down in LA towards the end of the year at an extended period, so I wanted to pick up some gear that I could take down there easily. So I've got a Mac Mini that's sitting over my shoulder here that I've been programming and putting stuff into that I'm going to use.
Good choice.
Instead of my Mac Pro, because I didn't want to put that in the back of the car every couple of weeks.
No, big fan of the Mac Mini.
We love Mac Minis. Well, that sort of brings up an interesting question I had myself. I mean, in some of the books I've done, something a little more specialized where there's pronunciations or it has to, because it's historical or something along those lines. Do you ever get directed? I mean, is someone listening in while you're recording ever? I mean, I'm sure you go into a studio. I'm sure it's asked of you every now and again. But what's that like for an audiobook? And how often does that happen?
I am special, so
okay. We'll take that into account.
It was interesting. Bob Dean of Dean Audio down in LA, he was awarded a Special Achievement Award this week at the Audies in the evening. It's wonderful, and he is the only guy who actually hooks in when I'm recording for him, and I haven't done for a while, but we did 3 or 4 books together, and he would line up with Skype. He'd hook into me on Skype and would listen all the way through the book while I'm recording.
That's great.
On Skype. Someone else, Kevin Thompson, I think it is, over the East Coast, he would hook up for the first half hour on Skype and listen just to see that I was on the right track.
Yeah, you got it.
When I began the book, and they would say, "Hey, you got it." Everybody else is, "Yeah, you got it." The history is, I was in my studio for years. Then I started to get a few more publishers interested, and then I was called into New York. I worked for Random House for a couple of books. I did one for Macmillan, Laura Wilson for Macmillan, and she was like, "You got a home studio, right? You're fine." So they've sent me books ever since. Nobody calls up. I lost one book recently because books on tape. I done a Mark Haddon book a couple of years back, Spot of Bother, which is really good. A great book. I loved him. Loved his writing. He wrote The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. I think that was it. But there was a new book, and it was given to a producer at Books on Tape who was interested in having me do it, but absolutely adamantly wouldn't let me do it in my studio. You know, that happens. Sure. But they wouldn't pay accommodation or flight down, and so it wasn't going to work, which was a disappointment. You know, but that happens. But that's the only time in recently that I've been asked to go down.
Yeah. Great question here from Peter Bishop. Do you always pre-read or not?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's I would always say, add at the beginning of this, that if you're new to audiobook narration, yes, pre-read everything. When you get old and cranky like me and lazy, you just, whatever, sight read. No, it's not entirely true, but if it's non-fiction, and I was a sort of illustrator and say, if it's a World War II book, I know how it ends, and I know all the major players. So I really don't necessarily need to read it. And that's true of most history books that I'm asked to read, the Tudors or whatever. I know who the characters are. And if I may read the first chapter or two ahead of time and get the rhythm and the sense of what the writer is saying and how they're saying it and get the sense of the book. But for the most part, those books I won't pre-read. If it's a mystery, it's essential. I have to read ahead. You got to know who the bad guys are, who the good guys are, who's putting on a fake accent. There's one book I'm going to do shortly.
There's a detail.
There's a guy somebody who you think is a man. I won't go into too much detail, but you think they're a man at the beginning. Turns out they're a woman. And they speak. So you kind of can't give them that kind of a man's voice.
Right.
Well, unless they're a very strange woman. But it's kind of, you got to balance it out, So you got to be aware of the nuances of this and how the story goes. And I don't mean so that you can, preview, you can, build up to dramatic places. Because you don't do that. You can't do that with mystery books. You've got to still just read it flat. You've got to do pacing, but you don't want to indicate what's coming because that takes away the thrill of the read. Yeah. So you don't read it for that reason. You just read it for your own, comprehension, so that you know who's doing what to whom, when, and where.
Makes sense.
And how.
Susan Bernard says, "You're such a great voice. Do you have any plans of writing something yourself?"
I suppose. I mean, doesn't everybody? I don't know. It's no. I mean, truthfully, no, I don't. I'm.
You're happy to know what you're doing.
I have enough trouble blogging. I haven't written a blog in about a year. I get too specific about it. I think it's possible if I won the lottery and didn't have to work again, that I would then sit down and write a book because I'd have the time and I wouldn't be worrying about where the next penny is coming from. Yeah. But I'm not. I certainly don't have anything in my mind that's ready to go.
Do you have? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, Dan. Go ahead, George.
I have more questions. I wanted to bang them up, line them up, and hit them out of the park, so we don't.
I'll give them one word
Simon too much longer. Andy Barnett says, "Do you do any editing of your material?" That has always seemed to me to be the biggest drawback of doing audiobook work.
Well, this brings up that whole Pro Tools versus other ways, punch and roll, straight record. Right. I'm a big fan of straight recording, but that's because of my history. I started in the BBC in the early 80s, editing tapes with a razor blade and a little yellow sticky tape and stuff. So, you go, whoop, 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 whoop. You get to hear the sounds, you know exactly what, you can take the breaths out, whatever, using a razor blade. If you can do that, then you can work an audio editing program, a digital program. So that's one reason why I do it. The other is I just like more control. I'm a control freak. And I felt with punch and roll, it was too much. I wasn't sure quite if it was going to be the right pacing when I picked up and so on, and not sure what noises might have been left on the tape. So what I do is my process is to record constantly. I leave the recorder on and I drop a marker. I just click. And it drops a marker if I make a mistake, and I do a retake, and if I hear something needs to be redone, I'll click and I'll redo it. And then at the end of the session or at the end of the day, or if, as often happens, I'm too lazy and I end up having 15 hours to go through at the end of the week, I will then go through the file and go from marker to marker to marker and just do a quick edit. And I'm very fast because I know it. And it's not a way I recommend a new person to do stuff because, you really need to know what is done. Validate. You really need to know what you're doing within on editing audio files, and some are very easy, but some of the detailed stuff. I edit in the middle of words, S's and F's and consonants and so on, and you got to make sure when you do it, it sounds nobody would notice.
Whenever I'm listening to someone sample, I say if I can pick out your edits, they're not good.
That's
edits.
not good, right?
Yeah. They should disappear.
Yeah. The other thing with that, of course, is you may have you didn't like a take, and you do 2 takes of it. And you're like, well, I like the first part of the sentence, but I like the second part. If you edit that out, it's gone forever. So
that's right, and that happens a lot. The energy is right there, and the way you said that word. And sometimes when I pick up, I might stumble the first word a little bit or something. So, yeah, editing in the middle of sentences is an art, and it's not an easy thing to do. But it makes my job. I like doing it because I like the control.
2 more questions, and we'll wrap it up, Dan. I've got one from Adam and one from Jim.
Adam Bear. Now, is he calling us from South Africa here, or
he might be? He
might be in New York. Who knows where he is?
But he said, what kind of work is available in specific and unusual accents in English? And if one is one of the few people who works in these accents who might want approach for this type of work in
South African
in odd.bk.
Well, I know. I've heard about him. South African. He probably hates me because I've done all the Deon Meyer books. So I put in, he's a South African, awesome guy. I loved him. And I spend hours on the phone talking pronunciations and talking about barbecues and motorbikes and stuff. But he's a lovely guy. But, I got those because of, I'm a long-term narrator, long relationship with a publisher, Highbridge, and so on. Coming in, I don't know. I know there's a Spanish language company, or there are people who are now starting to get into that, or have been for some years, and that's expanding. But in terms of specific accents, the best I can suggest is do what a new somebody introducing themselves to the industry does, which is send their demo tapes to the publishers. There are places, I can't remember, Audiophile magazine and so on, that will give you those, and you can send them and say, look, I'm a South African narrator. I can do this, I can do that, I can do these accents, and then maybe when something comes up, they can be hired for that. At the moment, I've done Australian, American, South African, so
Canadian.
Canadian. Well, actually, Guy Gavriel Kay, I did a whole series, and I had to look up doing the about this and all that sort of stuff. And I hope I didn't. You get very sensitive.
Sure,
Canadians get very sensitive, but yeah, that's the best I can suggest. But don't do it too soon, because I still like getting Deon Meyer's work myself.
One last one. We'll shoehorn one last one. Thanks so much again for answering so many questions. You've been a real sport tonight. Jim Edgar says, does Simon have trouble balancing the director part of the brain versus the performer part of the brain while reading?
And the reptile part of the brain. Or maybe that is the director's side. Anyway, let's not go there. Do I have a problem? No. I think, I started again. For me, I started in local radio. I started working. I got people talking into my head while I'm live doing stuff, while I'm reading scripts, while I'm making stuff up.
Yeah.
Somehow, I just grew with it, and my brain has developed these different lobes.
Right.
That's why I got these lumps on my head. I don't. When I'm reading, I see the movie in my head, and that's how I keep everything happening. And it's not like I'm going to see the movie in my head. I just do. And that unfolds before me as the words enter my brain through my eyes, and it comes out through my mouth. So no. In fact, when I'm reading, the one thing I'll say is that if I read a paragraph and I get to the end of the paragraph and I don't remember what I've read, I will redo it. It's like, when you're walking to work, if you've done it 1,000 times and you'll find yourself leaving your door and getting to the place and going, I don't remember walking that mile or something.
Driving is even scarier.
When
that happens.
You go, what happened there? So that can happen, by the 3rd hour of the day. And if that happens, I know my director has not been engaged, if you like. My brain generally. So I will then go back and do that paragraph again. It needs such concentration, audiobook narration. You need to be on top of it every moment. That's why I think a lot of people don't understand when they come into narrating how it can be so exhausting, but it is because your brain needs to be on all the time. You can't glide through this. You can't go on autopilot through a book.
I'm not a voice actor and I'm not an audiobook narrator, but I do sometimes spend, if I have a really busy day, I'll have 4 or even 5 1-hour-long phone consultations. And for those 5 hours,
who's who?
I mean, it's like, when I work with somebody, I want to give them everything I've got. I'm not cheap. I want them to get full value. And so for that hour, my brain is fully engaged, right? And it is exhausting. Like by the end of that day, I am totally beat. So I can get it. I totally get how exhausting it could be to not only the vocal tool, the instrument, but the mental part of it. It's absolutely exhausting to do it for that long.
Yeah. You ever fall asleep? That's always a fun one.
In the booth?
You're half asleep and you start, playing it back and you're like, I don't remember saying that.
If I yawn more than a couple of times, because that happens, I'm reading and there's a sort of sense of I need to step out and get.
It's time to get some tears.
That's me laying in bed at night reading a book to my daughter. I yawn about 7 times throughout the course of an 8-page book. Yeah,
and you're hoping she'll catch on. Exactly. Well, Simon, it's always a pleasure having you on. This was a lot of great information, and I know our audience is very, very appreciative of it. And it's always a pleasure to see you. You can actually use those as like shoulder pads.
You can even make some big old earrings,
like Joan Crawford and stuff. But thanks for being on this week, and we look forward to seeing. I'm sure we'll run into each other sometime in the near future. And good luck with your next book.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks
for the next 3 you've got coming up. Anyway, Simon Vance, our guest tonight. Well, we'll be right back. We got lots more to cover. Yeah, still a little bit more here in East West Audio Body Shop, so stay right where you are. We'll be right back. VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com.
Welcome back. We call it EWABS. Dan and George call it the only way to spend Sunday night.
And what better way to spend Sunday night? Well, you could be watching all the other shows that are on. But no, you're here because
we had Simon. And we had Simon. And you were in the chat room and you're having,
Where else can you get this stuff?
I know.
And ask questions of great people like Simon Vance, who's, aside from having a great voice, he's a great guy, and he's obviously extremely talented. Otherwise, he wouldn't have all of those medals to hang around his neck.
It is like a cow. It's hilarious, man.
That's a sound you hear in Switzerland a lot, if you've ever been to Switzerland.
It's like a cool sound.
It is. Cows walking by all the time.
Makes me salivate for chocolate every time I hear it.
Yes, that's true. Well, we got a few minutes left here. Now, you've got a little feature you want to show us on some type of installation you did?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, I was going to mention Tech Update first. I don't have a lot of real fun stuff for Tech Update, but if you guys have heard about Lucy, Lucy, Luci.eu. What Lucy.eu is a maybe not a brand new audio codec tool or audio streaming tool, but it is one that's finally starting to get some attention out there. And I'll just show you a brief image. Here's a little video actually from their website that explains what Lucy Live is. So let me see if I can play this without too much horrible train wrecking of audio looping and all sorts of other stuff. So here we go.
I hear it.
Cool. for an international audience, absolutely. So it doesn't surprise me that there's no VO.
Well, you would think.
Yeah. It's just music. But I thought this little video could explain it a lot faster than I could. But for you guys, if anybody's listening to the show and not watching, it's explaining it's a two-way studio quality audio codec, kind of like Source Connect, kind of like ISDN. It uses the internet though, and what's so cool about it is it will work on an iPhone or an Android phone. So that separates it from pretty much everything else that's out there right now that I'm aware of. And it'll work between an iPhone and a PC or an iPhone and a Mac. So it's very flexible. And then also if you have a system that's hardware based, like certain codecs that you can mount in a rack, like the Comrex and a few others, it can actually be wired in and directed. It can be patched into hardware as well. So it doesn't just rely on that desktop program. I mean, that's one of the problems we've been having with getting people to be interested in taking up Source Connect in these larger corporate-based networks. These super elaborate IT networks, and they're really, really anal about security. And so they're not letting people put things like Source Connect on their workstations in the studios. It's a real problem. So to have a rack-mounted piece of equipment in a machine room somewhere else that can be called into by Lucy is a pretty cool thing. Anyway, long story short, it's looking like we'll have a bridging system to use Lucy here pretty soon, so that those who want to go on the road with an iPhone or iPad and want to be really brave and not bring much else with them except maybe an Apogee mic or some kind of a 416 iTrack Solo combo, will actually be able to bridge to ISDN or bridge to Source Connect or bridge to any other third-party software, even including AudioTX. So that's going to be cool. I can't wait. I think I'm going to be having that up and running this week. So stay tuned. I'll keep you guys posted as to how that's coming together. And
wait.
Somebody did mention what's it cost. The full tilt version of this, which I think you have to have the full tilt version. You can't use the cheap one because the cheap one only uses the really low quality codec. But if you want the best possible audio quality, you're looking at around, I think it's around $400 or a little bit under $400
That's a lot cheaper than ISDN.
It's a lot cheaper than ISDN. Now it's cheaper than Source Connect. So you have that on each end. So you're looking, if you're doing it, you have to have it on each end. So $800, So it's pretty, it's, as apps go, the idea of buying a $350 app from the iTunes App Store might be kind of tough to understand, but this is a professional tool, really definitely professional. So that's Lucy. iPhone on Virgin Mobile. This is, maybe slightly off topic, but if any of you guys have been waiting to get an iPhone or a smartphone, and part of the reason is because you are anti-phone contracts, like right now, if you need, it used to be if you wanted an iPhone, you had to have one of the big networks, T-Mobile. Well, actually, T-Mobile recently now. AT&T was the first, then Verizon, then Sprint. Anyway, you had to have these really expensive contracts, and the data packages are outrageously expensive. I mean, I'm using a smartphone on Verizon. It's like $98 a month for 2 gigabytes of data, unlimited texts, and like 400 minutes of cell coverage. It's a joke. It's so expensive. But in LA, if you want a phone that's going to work almost anywhere, you got to have Verizon up in the canyons and stuff. Anyway, so recently Virgin has added the iPhone. And so I got one for my wife. She's going to have it this week. She's uber excited. But no contract, $35 a month. Gives you unlimited data. And I think it's maybe 400 minutes in talking and maybe all the texts you can eat, texts. So $35, can't beat it. So even if you have another phone, you could at least try the iPhone on Virgin and see if you like it. But if you're jonesing to get into the iPhone game, might be the way to get into it. So somebody actually I just caught out of the corner of my eye. Somebody asked me about what's behind me. This folding screen is made by AtsAcoustics.com. I think they call it the vocal cabinet or the voice voice cabinet, something like that. Well, I can't remember the name. Sorry, guys. Anyway, if you go to atsacoustics.com, you'll see it over there. The idea of it that you can mount it to your wall. It actually will. Let me get out of the way a little bit so you can see more of it. But these two pieces here are hinging. They hinge. So you can close it entirely when it's not being used. You can pull the sides in to kind of create like a little bit of more coverage on either side of you. And it's a pretty cool unit, but I find that there's not a lot of situations where it would be a one-stop shop. You know, you can put this thing up on the wall, and it's about a $400-ish unit. And I think that you're most likely going to still need more acoustical treatment in your room.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because this will do a pretty good job, because the ATS panels are made out of this mineral wool. Oh, yeah, and that leads me on another quick tangent, but I'll tell you real quick that ATS Acoustics is now selling their acoustical panels made out of the recycled denim stuff now. So if you don't want anything anything that could be in any way toxic or off-gas anything, you can now get their stuff with cotton. But anyway, let me transition into a picture and a clip of a studio suit installation that I did last week. Ooh. Dan shipped me out a studio suit. And it was a good example of what this thing is capable of doing. You know, like I said, I am a fan of ATS acoustic stuff. I really have used a lot of it, but there's some situations, and this is a perfect example of one, where it's just not practical to install panels or anything that's in any way permanent, you know. So I found Dan's studio suit to actually work really nicely in this situation. So let me grab the photos of this setup, and so you can see what this is all about. But let me bring that up here, and let me resize this, and bring that over there, and resize that. There's just no way to easily do this. There's no slick way to do this. I gotta just do it.
That's okay. We're not slick anyways.
We're slick most of the time, but I can only share one thing on the screen at a time. And then I go to Dan's shot, and boom goes the dynamite. All right, so this is like one of those apartment situations where you have a mirror on one wall with the vanity and the sink and everything, and a marble top. Behind me, which you can't see because it's covered with a suit, but it's a mirror door closet, right? So the absolute worst possible reflective surfaces you can think of. Then on my left-hand side is the corridor leading into the bedroom, and on the right side, over my right shoulder, is the door to the bathroom. Okay, so I got 3 pieces of studio suit. I tacked a couple of nails up, hung these things up with their grommets, and about an hour's worth of time to install these things. And here's another angle just showing you the mic setup. I'm using a Shure PG42 USB in this particular case. And then as well, so you can see how the laptop's perched up on the vanity. And again, I left even this entire section of mirror completely open, as you can see. And then this is what you see from outside of the booth, so to speak. We have the corner of it hung up on one of the pull strings, so he can get a little bit of air circulation in there to keep it cool when he's not in there. But maybe I should just play a clip.
Yeah.
So, this is absolutely raw. I mean, I said, hey, email me that clip we recorded while I was at your place, because I would love to be able to play it for the people on my show. So I didn't retouch this in any way. I didn't filter it, high pass filter, nothing. This is just as it is, first take. So I'll let you guys hear what was the result.
On the day when the warning of the Scarlet Scorpion came to Richard Wentworth, he was enjoying one of the few periods of relaxation that fell in an overcrowded life. Click, click. He was fencing with keen, naked sabers before a gallery of friends in the gymnasium that occupied half the second floor of his fortified mansion between Sutton Place and the East River. It was a colorful scene, with the cold sunlight of winter making gay yellow oblongs on the floor. Only the especially observant would have noticed that the glass in the tall windows was extra thick.
Wow.
There you go. It sounds...
I amaze myself sometimes.
Sounds very studio-like, doesn't it?
It does.
So, I have to say, now that I've gotten to put one in myself, I am impressed. And, you know, I always get nervous when I have to install something. You know, obviously I knew that it was going to do the job with all the research and testing that Dan's done and hearing Dan's samples. I knew it was going to work, but I still, to walk in and install something I'd never used before in person or tested on my own, I was a little nervous about it, but it really did the job. The proof was in the pudding. So there you go. There's an example of why Studio Suite is so easy to use. And he can take it down. You know, he can get up on a step stool and just pull the grommets off the nails, you know, and that's what he is going to do, because he wants to be able to use his bathroom as a normal bathroom when he can, you know.
Yeah, see, it comes with grommets. It comes with ties.
Right.
It's totally versatile. You can do just about anything with it, which is just what's so great about it.
So there you go. There's Studio Suite in a real-world scenario. That in a studio, in an apartment, mind you, on the second floor, right off of Vineland in North Hollywood. I mean, this is a really busy neighborhood. He's on the back side of the building, which helps a lot. He's not on the busiest side of the street, but still, it is not a very quiet area. And there's a freeway on the outside of his building. So it really, he shut his single pane piece of glass sliding window, and we went in there and recorded. So good stuff.
Outstanding.
With that,
we wouldn't tell you that stuff if it wasn't real.
With that, let's I say we call it a night. An hour and 35 minutes in.
Yeah. Well, we're not exactly sure who's going to be on next week, but we do know that sometime in July, early July, is going to be our 100th episode. And, you know, if you want to give us a shout out, if you're like a regular listener to, you know, and viewer of the show, we'd like to hear from you. You know,
that'd be fun.
Send us some video of yourself. And
please
tell us where you are, where you're from, and, you know, how you listen to the show. Is it like on a crystal radio or something along those lines?
And we know we're not looking for whiz bang production value. Just you can use your iPhone or any camera.
Let us know you're there. That's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. We'd love it. Just, you know, keep it under 30 seconds if you can, and we'll throw it up on a little montage, and we'll drop them in throughout the show. It'll be a lot of fun to just share you guys with the rest of the audience, and you can shout out who you are, why you watch the show, you know, what you do, and just to put your face in front of us. It'll be a lot of fun to see you guys.
Absolutely. Well, and so we don't know who's going to be on next week, but it'll be somebody fabulous, and we will be here next week. So tell your friends.
We got a lot of people stewing in the pot. We just have to nail them down, but we got stuff happening.
Stir them up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank all sorts of people. Of course, we'd like to thank our wives, because without them, this would just be Sunday night watching TV. And of course, Kathy Curridon, who is actually back in Buffalo this week taking care of her mom. So, but she's still doing the job for us. Anthony Gettig for helping us out in the chat room, and Jason Lawson and Lee Penny for all their production assistance, and also the folks that have been doing the bumpers for us. If you want to do a bumper, we want.
Oh, yeah, drops.
Show us your creativity. We want to hear from you guys. But Larry Hudson and Sylvia McClure, and, of course, Larry Davis and Elizabeth, and Rosemary Benson for the great announcements jingle, and, of course, Uncle Roy for that help, too. And we want to hear from you. But anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
Are you sure? And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. Did we sync it that time?
Okay. Nailed it.
All right. We'll see you next week, folks. Have a good one. Take care.
Good night, everybody.